ISIS-K suicide bombers attacked the airport in Kabul. 13 American service members have died. That's 12 Marines and 1 Navy corpsman, along with dozens of Afghan citizens.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
A number of American presidents have had to deliver that speech. As you heard earlier, the Taliban has condemned the attack and has promised to investigate. One should rightfully question how thorough a job they're going to do at that. The suicide bombing, twin suicide bombing, comes just days before an August 31st deadline for all U.S. forces to leave, but the president acknowledged in his speech today that it's likely Americans would be left behind and promised to try and get them out at some point. It's becoming increasingly clear the American people are appalled by what they see happening in Afghanistan. A new poll finds a solid majority of Americans believe the Afghan withdrawal is either not going well or not going too well. Just 24% say it's going well. A mere 8% say very well. Let's bring in JOHANNA, MASKA, former Obama White House official, ALYSSA, FARAH, former Trump White House official. JOHANNA, any idea who those 8% are who say this is going really well? Is that the Taliban?
Well, Leland, my heart aches today because we lost, our military, and we lost Afghans. And I'm afraid that for 20 years, we've lost thousands of lives. And I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, this war has come to an end. It is ugly. This is the most ugly part. And I think it's not over. And until the 31st, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I think that Americans probably weren't ready in our lifetime to see this because, over the course of our lifetime, we've continued to invest in a war that our generation has fought and that obviously was standing up a government that could not stand. Yeah. So, I can understand that there are some Americans who, they understand there was no good way to pull out of this war.
Yeah, there's the idea there's no elegant way to lose a war. I think we've pretty much proven that. ALYSSA, listening to the president today, you heard him say a couple of times, I take responsibility, but I'm just living up to Donald Trump's deal. Is that a fair statement?
No, absolutely not. And anytime there's a but after the buck stops with me, then you're saying the buck doesn't stop with you. Listen, he made this illogical argument when Peter Doocy rightly asked him a question about the fact that we had seen no U.S. casualties in Afghanistan since February 2020 because the U.S. had come to a ceasefire with the Taliban, saying we were not going to be attacking each other while we tried to work out the parameters of a peace deal. Since then, we today saw the deadliest day against U.S. forces on Afghan soil since 2011. That is a tragedy, but it is also an egregious failure. And the president pointing the fingers at President Trump, who was never in office, even back when we saw something as horrific as this, is just ridiculous. Optically, it's a mess, but operationally, it's a disaster.
JOHANNA, one thing that caught our eye, in addition to obviously the horrific nature of this bombing, is we're now sort of fully learning how much weaponry has been left behind. Take a listen.
The Taliban now has access to over $85 billion worth of American military equipment. That includes 75,000 vehicles, over 200 airplanes and helicopters, over 600,000 small arms and light weapons. The Taliban now has more Black Hawk helicopters than 85% of the countries in the world.
Rightfully terrifying might be one word for it, JOHANNA. If there is additional attacks by the Taliban or by terrorist groups in Afghanistan between now and 2024, it'd be hard-pressed not for President Biden to have to take responsibility for that, right?
Well, just to be clear, back to what ALYSSA said, it was her administration that negotiated with the Taliban that has never stopped being a terrorist organization. I mean, I see these images, and to me, it evokes the imagery of The Handmaid's Tale, which, that basically means the Trump administration gave over the keys to the commanders. I think there's a lot of responsibility. We have given 20 years of military equipment, military training over to the Taliban that they now have, and we have lost thousands of lives. It is well overdue to get out of this war. And that's one thing that President Trump and President Biden agree on. And it is about time that we pull down our troops, that we get people out. We got 100,000 people out. And that is 100,000 stories that I cannot wait to see grow in America.
Okay. Alyssa, does that work?
Two quick things I would say here. In addition, we handed the Taliban a 20,000-foot airbase at Bagram Airfield that they can use those Blackhawks on. This is an unmitigated failure by the Biden administration, but this
I don't want to interrupt you. I want to interrupt you for 1 second. I think we have video, actually, of some Taliban guys taking one of those Blackhawks out for a spin. So we'll put that up here in a minute. It is terrifying to think that the Taliban now has an air force when there's 6,000 U.S. soldiers at Kabul Air Base, or Kabul Airport, I should say, that are, for lack of a better term, sitting ducks. We proved that today. Johanna, if you were in the White House right now, it seems as though there's a decision to be made here about whether to surge troops in to try to have additional protection and stay a little bit longer and get more Americans out or not. The president today admitted that essentially there's going to be Americans left behind, but we'll keep trying to get them out. A week ago, he promised no American will be left behind. If there's Americans held hostage after August 31st, does this turn into another Iran hostage crisis?
Well, he was talking about some Americans that are Afghan Americans who actually have not wanted to go to the airport. So, you know, it's
hard to blame them for not wanting to go to the airport when the embassy says don't go to the airport. I mean, come on, we can all agree that if there's Americans left behind, it's going to be a bad thing, right?
I don't think that we don't want any Americans left behind. Absolutely, Leland.
Okay.
But this is the 31st is going to transition power back to the Afghans. And the question is, what's going to happen?
I don't think it's, I think the 31st,
the
America leaves, I think the power's already been transitioned. It's, you just listen to the White House briefings and you know that the Taliban's
the U.S. military.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, the keys were given over by the Trump administration.
Okay.
And so now the Biden administration.
This is a nonsense talking point.
Ladies, thank you. All right. We're going to have a Brit afterwards, and just by virtue of the fact that he speaks with a British accent, we're going to give him more time because we like to hear him in his perspective. Thank you both. Alyssa, Johanna, good to see you. How the world views President Biden's speech, especially those in the UK where we enjoy a special relationship, when we come back.
Kabul bombing is changing the mission